All right, guys, thanks for tuning in. I mentioned the other day in the video I released that I wanted to do a little recap of East versus West 18 in my experience, cover some matches. We're going to look at this from a good, the bad, and the ugly perspective. So if you haven't noticed, got a microphone, so hopefully you don't hear any background noise from the truck or the air conditioner. Taking your comments into consideration. All right, so my wife and I and my son were able to go ahead and go to Chicago on Thursday. We'll go over the matches. Hopefully, I can get them close to in order. I think the leadoff match was Ryan Ballinger and Alan Ford. Had this one picked as a 50-50 toss up. I was leading toward Ryan Ballinger because I thought he was going to get his hook, but I predicted this one as a sleeper war. And man, this match has gone down as my son Lincoln's favorite match of all time. It was, in my opinion, a technical masterclass by Alan Ford, almost all together, and it was a masterclass on heart by Ryan Ballinger. Wasn't able to set the hook. He was chasing him outside the strap, wound up losing his wrist, lost his wrist the rest of the match, went down 0-2, and just absolutely gutted out the ugliest, most beautiful war win. And it kicked the event off the right way, man, and the place was electric. Ryan Ballinger has lit the place up now at both events he was involved in. So super awesome. After that, I think we had Joseph Moranto and Ivan Portela. That wound up being one-sided. Joseph just looked absolutely dominant. Ivan, hook puller as well. We didn't really know where he was at. Joseph was very much in control and won that 3-0. Next match, I'm kind of vague on the order. I think it was Reichart Foreman and Wallace Dilly. And that match right there, let me just, first and foremost, I got to spend a little bit of time on this one because Reichart won the match. It was very much contested. There was a lot of questions as to both of these guys' level. Reichart is one of those dudes, he's from South Africa by way of Australia, and he trains a lot with Ryan, and people question about the Australian level and all that good stuff. But Reichart's the real deal. And Reichart's the real deal is because I know and I have pulled with Wallace Dilly. And Wallace Dilly is diesel strong. His wrist is incredible, and his hook is really good. And you don't see nowadays a whole lot of committed hook style pullers. Now he did gain some hand control and stuff in that match, which was pretty cool to see. But man, he's diesel strong, and Reichart, really had to go through the avenues to find a way to beat him. But great match. Reichart's the real deal. We're going to see Wallace Dilly. His level is super high. He's not going to go away anytime soon. I expect him to keep getting better because they're both new. After that, I believe we had Wagner Bortolato with fill-in Pablo Dervadynev. So Wagner's original opponent wasn't able to make it. He got stuck with visa issues last moment. So I talked to Pablo right when I got there, before he had even found out he was getting the match. And I was asking him how he's feeling. And he was like, oh, my left still hurt. I think he had an injury or something like that, surgery or something. I don't know if it was on the left or right. But in any case, he said his left was no good. About 12 hours later, they offer him the match. He says, sure. And he goes out and wins it in dominant form. Now, Wagner did put up a good fight for sure. It wasn't easy, but it was a pretty one-sided victory for Pablo, which really cements Pablo's absolute beastliness, and he's looking huge. It was a wonderful thing. He lives 8 minutes or 5 minutes away from the venue, so he got the win in front of his home crowd. It was pretty cool. The only downside is we didn't get to see Wagner do Terremoto or whatever the heck he does and break the tables and everything around him. But next match, I believe I might have skipped one, but I believe I was the sixth match, and Devin was right before me. So we had Devin and Alex Credencia. Most of you guys already know how that went. Devin won. I think it was 3-1. One of the rounds was on fouls. I'm not going to go too deep into it and let you guys watch it and make your own assessment. What I saw behind the scenes and what I saw, I wasn't able to watch the match because I was preparing for my own. I did rebuy the pay-per-view and watch it myself, and then piece together what I saw behind the scenes. Devin's exhaustion in that match was real. I think he was really pushed to the razor's edge. So Alex did not arm wrestle very well. Like he did not look good in the setup. He started many of those rounds with his wrist already compromised. He immediately lost his wrist and lost it every round since then. But he flopped and he worked and he did everything he could. And a 300-pound Devin on probably a less conditioned arm absolutely got pushed to the max. He commented afterwards how sore he was. He went back to the green room and laid on the ground for, I think, my entire match. So it was great to see Devin get run to the wire like that, but then also see him be able to take that, I guess, the number 4 spot, whatever it is now. But the left-handed super heavyweight is going to get real interesting with Devin in it. Big shout out to Kurdecha. And, I'm going to cover Kurdecha's second match right away, even though it's out of order, because I do believe that first match had a big impact on the second one. It was such a hard fought match. They were both covered in sweat. They were both absolutely exhausted. It's got to be really, really hard to perform, I guess, 4 or 5 matches later against an absolutely beastly looking Artem Morozov. So that match wound up being one-sided. The nice thing to see is, we always see Devin talk trash and play the mind games in the build-up. But he actually, I noticed at that point in the event that Alex had nobody in his corner. And I was sitting there. I said, "Do you need a corner?" And he said, "Yeah, please, if you would." And so I hopped up there to corner him. And by the time the first setup was starting, Devin was up there helping as well. Alex just didn't have enough on the day. So it wound up being, I do think, though, I don't think anything would have changed if he would have pulled Alex first and Devin second, or pulled Morozov first and Devin second. But I got to believe it had something to do with it. But he looked exhausted, and his energy, he was trying to generate it, and it didn't seem to be there. It's the downside of having 2 matches on one day. I've done it early in my career at a much lower level, and I wouldn't do it again. Okay, so back to the match order. I guess I would have been next. I'll spend a short period of time, as I've talked a lot in post-match interviews and stuff about this. First and foremost, the entire Armenian camp are the sweetest people ever. I really like the Georgians, and these guys are like a close second. They're just awesome. They appear very physically intimidating. Their facial expressions are very intimidating, but the minute you peel the layer back, they're super nice. And Arsen was absolutely probably the most classy and sportsman-like person that I pulled yet. And I pulled some very classy sportsman-like people. He just seems to be absolutely pure with his approach. He still brings fire on the table. He was twitchy and he had me guessing. So, he false started outside, then he dove right into a press, then he went into a drag hook, then he went back to a top roll. So wound up having some issues getting pins called and having elbows called, but that's my standard now. I'm kind of used to it. Match wound up going 3-0, but I had to be on my toes the entire time. My static load felt good. My center of the table felt really good, but he was definitely like on point with his ready goes and timing. So I think I was able to neutralize it with a little bit of load and a little bit of static in the middle. My center table like stability has improved so much with the conjugate method, and I think it serves me really well. So I ended up winning that 3-0. There were some times where I think even in the commentary, they were thinking I was a little bit flustered, and I was definitely on my toes, for sure. I don't think there wasn't any time in that match where I, after the first round, where I felt like I wasn't in control of the match, or somewhat, there was no panic button. But absolutely, Arsen is incredible. We have to see him again. He does speak English. I just don't think he's confident to do it. And I think as his English gets better, he's going to become more marketable. He's 22 years old, 23 years old, whatever it is. He's super versatile. He's going to keep getting stronger. He trains with David Egan and or Egyan and Vrez Sadrakian and David. So they're world champions, all of them. So they're just going to keep getting better. All right. So after me was Matt Mask and Irakli. Oh, another one, like you could say Ryan Ballinger match of the night. You could say this match of the night. First 2 rounds, Matt looked like it looked like Irakli's hand was just too much. I warmed him up and gripped up with him, and my left hand ain't good. And this guy felt good everywhere. Like, he's known as a top roller, and he felt solid as all get out and hook. His thumb pad felt like a baseball, and I was like, no, this might be tough. And it looked tough the first couple rounds, and Matt just continued to work in the setup, continued to work his hand, continued to work his hand, and boom, lo and behold, his wrist goes and it doesn't come back. The thing about that match that you guys will see is it got really fiery. So Hutchings called Irakli a crybaby and everything, and I think Matt had said some things like that too in the build-up, and we had a little bit of those complaints and things in the matches to the referees, to the point where there was a couple rounds reviewed, I believe, and Levon actually came out and put his hands on Luke Pulsher, and Luke flipped out. Luke went nuts and like reprimanded him, and you can see that on the Artem Taranenko's channel, how it goes down. And Luke kind of, he took control of it. I was impressed there. I didn't see it happen until I caught the tail end of it, but that video pretty much captured it all. Anyway, Matt, huge, exciting. Crowd goes wild. 3-2 win. He had to like do it twice in the fourth round or in the fifth round, so it made it even that much more dramatic. But I think they could have pulled 100 times after that, and Matt would have won. He would have won every one. Irakli's wrist was kind of gone. After that one, this is where I might start getting out of order. It might have been the Morozov Kadetcha match. I don't know. It might have been later. There was a Fia Rysick match. Fia absolutely dominant. I can't spend a whole lot of time on that because, man, you could have watched the entire 3 rounds. Took about 0.3 seconds. Fia is just on another level. I know the backstory on that was another young lady. Fia told me it was that they had a 3-1 match before, and she pulls in a different organization, and people are always comparing them. So that girl's quite young, and Fia's, getting up there a little bit in experience and everything. So the match made sense, but Fia absolutely dominant. So it's become a thing that we expect from Fia, and she really doesn't fail. So very interested to see who they find for Fia next. We went over the Kadetcha match. Which one am I forgetting? Anyway, I'm probably forgetting one. But let's go ahead into the main event. You all know what happened. Levon wins 4-0. I think maybe they pulled a fifth round. But there was, at one point, I was worried and kind of trying to help Levon's corner out a little bit. I was worried because he was setting up low and webbing was low and didn't look like he had a good bite on the top strap. And here I am concerned about him. And then I see the first round get pulled and I'm like, wow, he doesn't need to have anything. He doesn't need any help. It's strength gaps too much. So it's amazing. We saw Ermi's numbers go all the way up and all these crazy things happen, and we saw, riser, pronation, back pressure, everything goes up 10, 15, 20%. And then Levon doesn't post a whole lot of videos and comes out and just looks like he went up 25%. So incredible. If those of you are like me and you're hoping to see Levon get tested, I think Levon genuinely wants to be tested himself. I don't know if that's going to happen anytime soon. So Levon may be just sitting pretty for quite some time. Some highlights. So let's go over the good. So we did event recap. Let's go over the good. The good for me was, first and foremost, that my son was able to be with me. My son was able to be in the green room the whole time. He was able to be in my corner. He was able to take part in whatever he wanted to. And the arm wrestlers absolutely blessed this guy with attention. The Drew Gallagher guy, who initially seemed a little cringy to me, went out of his way really to make Lincoln feel comfortable, gave him the hat that he got signed. So they really went out of their way to take care of the boy. Brian Shaw, every one of them. Devin signed it. We went and bought him one of those tables, got him signed by everybody. I mean, he was getting everybody to sign him. It wasn't just the people on the card. He had 1 million signatures on this. And so that was awesome for me. He really, I think it really cemented him as a true fan of arm wrestling. And, he's now a Ryan Bellinger fan, and he's telling me, that was the match of the night. That you better not tell anybody anything different. Ryan Ballinger has a huge heart. So, to me, when I see him invested in that, that's the best aspect of it. Other goods. The goods were the crowd. The crowd was awesome. The energy was awesome. The way the matches went down Like, that's why I say arguably possibly one of the best cards, not necessarily because of who's on the card, but how the matches went. They were all contested. Like, a lot of them were contested. Even the 3-0s, most of them, aside from Fia and Joseph, they were pretty contested. So I think it was very entertaining. And again, the energy was awesome. The venue was good. All right. So the bads, clear, right? Clear as day. The feed went down. There was power issues, whatever. There was also some microphone issues and some production issues. Um, don't think the power issues were controllable. The production issues might have been avoidable. It could have had to do with staffing. I don't know. You can get some insight on some of this stuff if you go to Artem and Travis's podcast that they just recently did. He talks about some of the wiring and the building of the stage. Not having the venue was cool, but we had to basically build it. It wasn't like an arena style or like stage seating or anything like that. So stage had to be built. It wasn't like tiered seating or anything. But sellout crowd, man, that is always good. The fellowship and the energy from the VIPs and the fans afterwards was absolutely awesome. I interacted my tail off with people, kids, pictures. It was awesome. We finally got to a point where I feel like when we do these events in the US, we actually feel the love. Sometimes you don't as much overseas, which can make it easier because there's less distractions and everything. But fans were great. We were, I think, as arm wrestlers, we were really feeling the love. So that was awesome. Uh, uh, but overall, the bads production, having to build the thing out, not like the perfect setting, the downtime. Um, uh, I think organizationally it was a little tough. We were condensed. Being in the United States, we had to really, a lot of us got in like Thursday. We had, unfortunately, some of the athletes had to stay in another hotel, so there was like some issues with going back and forth and timing things up. Some schedules changed, which made it a little bit tricky. T-shirts that we had to sign came in late, significantly late. So there were some organizational and operational issues that could be improved on. The ugly. So we'll get into the ugly. The ugly is everything that's going on. All right. So I found out about the conflict, I think either Thursday or Friday. I can't remember. So I got kind of filled in a little bit of some of the things that was going on in the background. I was able to talk to Engen prior to this and just, get a few little basic questions answered. Um, at that point, I was and still am hopeful that this can be amended. Anyway, the other, lump this into the bad and the ugly. If you guys paid attention to the pay-per-view, my training partner, one of my primary training partners, Andrew Mayersky, the guy who was running around in the latex Macho Man Randy Savage suit, he's a piece of work. Anyway, he found out as soon as the event ended that his father passed. So my wife and I were consoling him and trying to work out an emergency flight back from him. And that's when we get the call and my phone starts blowing up about an emergency, the athletes only meeting. So after I tried to, help get Andrew situated, I made it down there. They were very pushy to get me down there. And I think I might have been the last person to arrive. And they closed the door and the announcement was made that Anya would no longer be involved and that Dexter is now partial owner. I mean, that they also announced like some ideas on replacing matchmaking and things like that, having some fan polling and things like that for that. That's the big thing that obviously everyone's talking about. I'm not going to go into any more detail of what happened in that meeting. Okay. What I will say is if you want to get someone else's perspective, who was also in the room, go to Artem Taranenko's and Travis's podcast and listen to that. That you can get your information there because I don't want to skew any perspectives and I'm gonna leave it alone. The one thing I will say is that I did speak up. I think I was probably the first person to speak up, and my message was simple and clear. That I believe that we need to continue to work together. we need to try and keep the band together, keep the team together. We all build it together in some capacity, even though I'm a much smaller player. And I made it clear, I understand I'm not the man, I'm just another guy. But if at all possible, every stone needs to be left unturned, or no stone should be left unturned in this relationship. We need to look both sides. Where can concessions be made, and how can we resolve this in an amicable way? And the compromise will probably have to happen. Um, Unfortunately, we have not been able to reach that yet. Nonetheless, I am still optimistic, which brings me into what yesterday's video was about. It was about, showing the solidarity of bringing the fixed crew back together and just proving that, you can get over stuff, And I look at Ryan Bowen and Engen. A lot of people think Engen's uncompromising. People call him a tyrant, all these things. And I don't know a single human being who, from like that perspective, who knows Engen, that doesn't understand exactly his personality type and where he comes from. He's not perfect, right? But one thing that, he's very passionate, but if he can forgive Ryan Bowen after the falling out that they had and how deep that was, the dude clearly believes in second and third chances. So, he's usually looked at as the uncompromising one. Other parties involved. I mean, if Engen can do that with Ryan, I think we're all capable of finding the middle ground. Tricky part is going to be concessions and how do things work moving forward. I have my thoughts, but my thoughts really don't matter because I'm not one of the parties. So I'm just hoping that they can get together, be objective, not fight, check the ego at the door, and keep arm wrestling at the forefront of their thoughts and minds. Because ultimately, like, will arm wrestling move on? Yeah, Justin Bishop made a great video about telling everybody to calm down, relax, see how everything goes, just relax. It will move forward. There will be arm wrestling. But I am concerned that there's 4 years worth of work that has been done by a lot of people chipping in. There's a few people who have done a bulk of the work, and there's a lot of people who did little pieces. And I'm one of the people who did little pieces. I don't see it as my baby, but I do see it as something that I'm invested in continuing on and taking the next step. I think it's really important that we as a community not point fingers. If we want the league to stay together, we need to promote that concept. So the ugly stuff that's going around right now that people are putting out without having information, it's best not to make assumptions at this point and really just hope and push for unity and trust that, things will work themselves out and that we'll continue to move forward. The last thing we want is a divided league or a watered down league or multiple leagues where people can't compete. We're right back to being where WAL and PAL are. And I tell you, when things like this happen, the competition strikes up, and things start moving. So, if for whatever reason compromise can't be met, there'll be new options. It's not the end of the day. It's not the end of the world. But I really, really hope that everything that's been built and worked for doesn't get flushed down the toilet for potentially some disagreements and mistakes and things like that. So anyway, I'll leave you guys on a positive note. We are going to continue, I think, from the arm wrestling community perspective. We're going to continue to reach out. We're going to continue to work. I think you'll probably see some of the other media platforms getting more information and putting out more information that will be helpful rather than damaging. Guys, I got faith. Let's keep the faith and let's keep arm wrestling and move forward. Thanks again for tuning in. Everybody be blessed.